Hello and welcome to Abhi from Pune in India. You are with Hexo Wallet over there, and you are also a volunteer with Bitcoin for India, which I really want to get into because it seems to have a massive following, and a big part of the conversation I want to have with you is around Bitcoin in India. And there seems to be a huge community there, a huge population. And I'm really interested in what Bitcoin's position currently in India and kind of what it might be able to do for India going forward, and kind of what your hopes and dreams are for it, for the Indian community, and also, of course, globally. But to start with, I simply want to get a bit of background. I want to know a little bit about you. And I probably, as you may have seen, I don't know if you've seen kind of any of my other interviews, but what I like to do is get into the heart of who are the Bitcoiners as a community? Do we have values in common? And to get to that, I'm really curious about, where did our values come from? What made you you? So I want to go right back. I want to go back into childhood. I want to go back into teens. I want to go into schooling. So I'm probably going to go a bit deeper than the average kind of Bitcoin podcast. It's not just about our Bitcoin journey. It's about us. So Abhi, over to you. And I know you've stayed within the one state, I understand, for most of your life, but I know you've moved within that state, and it's a big state. So there's a lot, and India is just a big country. So tell me about you, Abhi. Tell me about your upbringing a little bit.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me, Carrie. This is wonderful, lovely Saturday morning, and first of all, it's so good to be connecting with you. You have that such a cheerful personality and vibe to yourself. So I had this with Merrick. I had this with Hats and Brando. Brando, forgive me if you're listening to this if I'm messing up your name, but yeah, and this is the third time, and first of all, looking forward to this conversation, Carrie. So first of all, thanks for having me.
Gorgeous, and thank you for joining me.
So where okay, specifics, where would you like me to begin?
Tell me, I'd actually love to know just a little bit about your family upbringing, the community or the environment or the village or the city that you grew up in, and what were the kind of values you were surrounded by. And I guess I'm interested in where I'd like to I was going to say hard fork from there. And I'd like to fork from there into your values actually very different from the people around you. Do you think differently from the people around you, or are you very much the product of your environment? So
No, so that's a good place to start things off. I don't think that I'm the product of the environment I have in general. Having said that, I have had to create an environment around myself that was conducive to my value systems, my beliefs, etc. And it has taken a lot of time, going out, meeting people, experimenting, failing. Professional failures, personal failures. uh, you learn things, right? And then you end up creating an ecosystem around you, and then once that ecosystem has formed, then you know that okay, you're amongst your own, right? And from there, you start doing your own thing. But I get ahead of myself. Going back to childhood, a very typical, thankfully, God has been kind. uh, Born and raised in a typical middle class Indian family. Very typical middle class values, of saving for the long term, holding a job down, uh, doing a hard day's work, earning your keep, things like that. What the fork for me starts with, generally how it does for people with a cool uncle. So the
I have heard this story. Isn't this funny? Yep, someone else said this recently. Yeah, go on,
yeah,
please.
yeah. So he introduced me to two things. One is books, specifically Enid Blyton.
Really?
Yep, yep. I belong
So
to that age as
famous
well,
five?
Gary. I'm in the ballpark. Don't worry.
So this was like Famous Five and Secret Seven?
Yep, yep. Very much so. Very much so.
Beautiful.
That's where you start reading, right? And that's where you start reading. So he introduced me to the world of books. I cannot be thankful enough for that. So that is one thing. And second thing is he introduced me to stamp collection, philately.
Really?
Yep.
That's not something you hear very often these days.
These days, right? So reading, it's a rabbit hole unto itself, right? Once you start reading, once you get used to it, it never leaves you, whether you find time for it or not. So but fortunately for me, and I say this, that it's very fortunate that that obsession was so strong that I've still not let go of reading as a hobby. It is truly more than a hobby. I cannot survive without reading, just
Mm.
for the love of it. So fast forwarding on the reading aspect of things, Famous Five, Secret Seven, very quickly, Hardy Boys, Harry Potter, John Grisham, Sidney Sheldon. That was the progression, and then from there it went to Malcolm Gladwell. You know,
Yeah.
yeah. So once you read Malcolm Gladwell, Tipping Point, those,
The
it changes you.
Outliers. Yep.
And that moment when you realize, hey, nonfiction could be awesome as well. you know and then that starts fueling the fire. Okay, so what else is there, and so what else is there? And I ended up reading Sir Richard Branson's autobiography, Losing My Virginity. So I absolutely loved it. His concept of doing hard things while having fun really resonated with me. So this is still me in my teenagers, very very much in my teenagers. So those formative years where your opinions are being formed, I was lucky enough to have the insights of such greats around the world. And I know the opinion on Richard Branson is out there, James Dyson is out there. But yes, I did take away James Dyson. In fact, he's got a fantastic autobiography called Against the Odds, and I don't think it's still in print, but it's amazing. The guy spent what, 35 years trying to perfect his first Dyson vacuum cleaner. So yeah, found that book at a thrift store, like maybe worth 50 cents USD. So it was.
I find those stories amazing, those stories of failure. And you said to me in your little pre-questionnaire that you've had an entrepreneurial spirit from very early on. So I hear you've got this kind of really stable middle-class upbringing. It's all about putting in the hard yards, doing the big work, getting a stable job. And I want to get into your kind of early career as well in a moment. But I can also hear there's this almost restless spirit that's a bit of a risk taker. And it's easy to say I was influenced by these books that I read and these entrepreneurs, and they went out and they did these big failures. But it's a chicken and egg thing. I don't think you would have been drawn to those books, or you wouldn't have gotten past the first 10 pages if there wasn't something in your spirit that connected with these people and resonated with their stories and with their characters and with their personalities and with that risk-taking, entrepreneurial, adventurous, big vision ideas. So there's clearly something. And so where does that come from, do you reckon? Where is that spark of
Curiosity.
entrepreneurship?
Curiosity. Where does curiosity come from? It's a gift. That's it. I have questioned myself about this. I do like introspecting. I have been journaling since 2007.
Mm.
So I've gone, I have analyzed my childhood. So if there is one word that stands out about my childhood, it's curiosity. And I consider myself fortunate. There is no other way to put it. One of God's given gifts is this thirst for knowledge, and curiosity. So yeah.
You make an interesting point, because I've often had this debate with various people, and I'm sure I brought it up in other podcasts, but there's a very famous line used in, certainly in the West, you come across it a lot in business, where I believe it was originally attributed to Liberace. And someone had said something like to his mum, "Oh, he's so lucky, he's so talented, he's such a superb musician." And I think it was his mother, or maybe it was he, who said, probably him, yes, and it's funny that the more that I practice, the luckier I become. And there is truth in that. Of course, there's truth in that. But there is an element of sheer luck as far as the genetic lottery goes. And where does curiosity come from? Some people can say it came from my parents, but sometimes you can look at your parents and go, plenty of people would say, no, it hasn't come from them. My siblings don't have it to the same degree. It's just something, as you say, that's a gift.
Yeah.
And where you and then do you believe in, okay, so I've started, I'm really curious about this at the moment. I put a little survey on Twitter. Do you believe in past lives?
I I was smiling to myself. I saw your tweet, and unfortunately, you've got a 50-50 reply, right? So
Yes, I did. So now I don't know if more Bitcoiners, because I'm assuming it's mostly Bitcoiners who are answering that survey, and it was exactly 50-50.
Yeah.
Because now I'm wondering if you were a cash in a previous life who was born with that curiosity.
The jury is out on that one, right? So do I believe in it? I don't necessarily not believe in it. Have I questioned that? No, I haven't. I mean, see, given the state of mind physically, the makeup of the brain, how we process things, what I've been exposed to, I have chosen that I could optimize that, right? Whether I had a past life or not, whether it influences me or not, that is a question that I've not stopped to ponder or explore because it never came up in the priority list.
Yeah. And it's not relevant at one level, is it? It's just, for the time being, it doesn't matter where it came from. The fact is that you are curious and you needed to explore, you need to satisfy that curiosity. And that's what matters here and now, is that you do pursue it and that you do so in a way that's meaningful and makes a difference to the world. So
Yep.
So let's just delve a little bit deeper. So we know curiosity is a core kind of characteristic, and also therefore perhaps value. You've got these kind of middle-class values of hard work, but also about stability of work. So at some stage you had to branch off from the family values and take some risks that maybe they didn't feel entirely comfortable with. Would that be fair to say?
Yep. 100% so.
Okay, so explain that journey to me.
So books or rather fiction led to non-fiction, non-fiction led to business books, business magazines, right? This is 2006, 2007, 2008 that I'm speaking of, right? And and business books eventually lead you to mentors, right?
Mhm.
They every entrepreneur out there says that I was fortunate enough to have good mentors. If you can have good mentors, have good mentors. So then once I internalized that concept of the importance of mentors in your life, I started seeking mentors. And once the student is ready, the teacher appears, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So so I was very fortunate to come across some really good entrepreneurs very early on in life who were very kind enough to give me their time, attention, without thinking ROI. And yeah, they shared their life lessons with me, very specific things with me. One of the things which I also mentioned in my in the questionnaire that you shared with me, so this mentor of mine told me, always try to create value, you know
Yes.
seek situations where you can either create value or add value. And
Mhm.
adding value essentially is creating value to a situation, right? So that stuck with me. So then the game became, okay, what is it that I could do where I'm having fun and I could create value, you know
Lovely. Lovely.
so it fuels my curiosity. it fuels the lessons, the learnings from Sir Richard Branson about having fun at whatever it is that you do. And what my mentor told me of, seek things where you could add value. So that was that. By this time, I was done with my mechanical engineering, and so was on the lookout for jobs. And there is something called TIE, TIE. It stands for the Indus Entrepreneurs. Maybe you may have heard. Uh, haven't you? Okay. So it's a global not for profit organization for, by, and of entrepreneurs.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. And you joined up.
No,
Oh,
I
no.
joined up the back office.
Right. Oh, I see. Okay. Smart move. Smart move. Yeah.
Yep. So what ended up happening is, so when I joined Thai, it suddenly became one, or rather many to one, many entrepreneurs out there, both the successful as well as the struggling ones. Me getting exposure to them. And as an entrepreneur, it's lonely, right? You have to have multiple faces. If you're someone in front of an investor, you are someone in front of your employees, you are someone in front of your family, and then you are you as well, right? So I was very fortunate to experience the real entrepreneurs, their real struggles. Their I was able to see an environment where it was safe for the entrepreneur to say, I don't know.
Amazing to be exposed to that.
Yep, yep. So yeah. So when I started working with Thai, that is when. So this is 2011. This is November, December 2011.
Yeah.
I was there with that organization for a year, and yeah. So that is when startups and entrepreneurship entered my lexicon of things. You know.
Okay.
So yeah.
So
That's where that is.
what happened? Did you have some ideas that you wanted to expand on? Did you already have some business ideas of things you wanted to bring into the world? Did you need
Nothing.
to bide your time for a little while in other jobs before you started kind of your own business? What was that bit from there? So now you've got, you want to be an entrepreneur, you've been exposed to other entrepreneurs, you've got mentors, you're getting all the pieces in place. And what you need is the big idea, right?
Yeah, and it never came till 2020, which was Bitcoin, by the way. But that's still 8 years ahead in the future.
Okay. Let's fill in the 8 years then.
so 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 based on these experiences and exposures, what I understood. So I understood two things. One, all these entrepreneurs that I was getting in touch with, they started giving me feedback that I was very good at marketing, and I had not the first clue of what marketing was and what sales was and what is the difference between the two. And the words used to come my way interchangeably. That okay, you're good at sales and you're good at marketing. I used to say thank you, but nothing beyond that. I had no clue what it was. So so I started exploring the terms and realized that these are critical functions of any business. Just like there is operations, just like there is HR, just like there is finance. So there is sales and marketing, and apparently I was good at it, right?
Mm. And arguably, I would just throw into the mix there that sales and marketing are really the backbone, and actually sales perhaps more so than marketing, because you don't have operations, you don't have management, you don't have finance and shared services unless someone's selling the product.
Yeah.
So salespeople are the backbone of every business and the heart of civilization.
I believe that. Don't tell my other IT friends about it.
Between you and me.
Yes. So yes. Uh
Okay, so you're good at sales and marketing. Sorry, I interrupted you. Yeah.
Yeah. So then what is it that you do? You go back to your basics. You start reading about sales and marketing, right? But at the same time, I wanted to do justice to my mechanical engineering degree as well. So then I became a site engineer, and I have traveled around a little bit. So, although I know in the questionnaire it appears that I've just stayed in the state itself, but that isn't the case. I've had the good fortune of being able to travel around to like the remotest parts of the country, getting exposed to very different cultures and foods and schools of thought, etc. I've had the good fortune of working in Myanmar as well, Burma.
Oh,
Uh,
wow. I
uh,
know quite a lot about Myanmar. Uh, my boyfriend prior to my current husband
mhm.
uh, lived there for many, many years. He was actually a Buddhist monk in
Wow.
Myanmar for sort of 15 years, as far as I know, on and off. And then he moved back to Australia for a little while, which is where he and I went out together for a few years. And then he went back and he actually married a Burmese girl
Mhm.
and has lived there for the last, I'd say, 10 years. I think he's back in Melbourne now, funnily enough. I'm not 100% sure. But I've
Mhm.
heard him speak Burmese. I never ended up going, but I know a bit about the culture. So what you were selling over there? Who was this
No,
for?
no, 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 no.
You were
So
just
that
out
was
there.
not at all. That was not at all a sales profile. So I worked with Thai, and that was a bit of a sales profile for me. So I jumped. Again, this is coming from reading business books. That in your 20s have a checkered career, taste everything. Because
Yes.
I wasn't lucky enough, right? Like generally artists are, right. Artists very early on, they know that okay, I want to be an artist,
Yeah.
or sports people for that matter, right. Initially coaxed by their parents, but realizing soon enough that hey, this makes sense to me, but I wasn't one of those fortunate people. So yeah, I did experiment a lot in my 20s. So this was a proper engineering profile wherein we were so my job was to erect all these mega steel structures on different sites that was cleaning industrial water. So that was a good exposure. That was a very good exposure.
How long were you with
So
them for?
about just short of 3 years, about 2.5 years.
Okay. It's an industry that really intrigues me. I actually wanted to get into the water industry at one stage because ultimately water is life, right? And I was looking to leave my own company, and I didn't actually want to set up in competition with a guy because we were friends. But I mean, I ultimately did because I love the industry that I was in. But when I was looking around at what else could I do, I really looked into the water industry. So actually, I'd like to delve into this a little bit because you don't come out of school going, I want to go into,
Wastewater treatment.
wastewater treatment, right? That's not like a career option that's offered to you.
Yeah.
But it's like, it doesn't get more crucial. So was this throughout India, and what was this in areas where there wasn't good wastewater treatment?
No, it was very random, frankly. Uh, so this was turnkey projects. The company that I was working with, they used to get turnkey projects with different industries, breweries, sugar manufacturing companies, etc. The automotive industries. Uh, so it was random. There was a bit of randomness to it, but not exactly or necessarily the areas that are having water shortage or
Yeah,
issues with water. Not like that.
right.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay, terrific. And your role with them was this on the engineering side, or was this sales and marketing side? What were you kind
No,
of
it was the engineering side,
uh,
and I mean, and I wasn't the best at it. So that is a a humble admittance. I did not enjoy the engineering part of it. I enjoyed the people's interaction part of it, because on one hand, I was working with laborers, coming from very humble backgrounds, but having hearts made of pure gold. Fantastic people. On the other hand, I was working with top management or relative top management, right? So I enjoyed those aspects more than looking at engineering drawings and trying to figure out, okay, how is it the piping would go, are the pipes parallel enough, are the pipes color coded properly enough,
yeah.
is the sand blasting proper. That wasn't for me.
But it's a really interesting, diverse skill set because on the one hand, you've obviously got that left brain part of you that can do all the mechanical engineering stuff. And on the other side, you've got this kind of right brain social thing that loves people and is kind of big picture. I'm going to say big picture because it's entrepreneurial and strategic and risk taking, but also, you know, kind of Bitcoin is its new ideas and its inventiveness and its, yeah. So okay, so you're doing the engineering, you're getting influenced by these people around you at the top levels and at the bottom levels. It's such a, I did hear a podcast about this. As you said, the business books say do a diversity of stuff in your 20s and then don't settle down. And that's actually been proven in your income level. So those who have more diverse careers in their 20s have lower incomes during their 20s than their specialized counterparts. But then as their career develops, they end up with higher incomes than the people who just stay specialized all the way through. So I didn't find that out till much later in life. A bit of a shame, really. Okay, so you've got all these fascinating inputs from your childhood and now from your work experience. And how's this molding you as a person in your 20s? Who are you becoming as you hit 30? And how are your ideas and values and hopes for the future developing?
That's a question I haven't pondered. I haven't stopped to ponder. So maybe that sets me up for the weekend.
Weekend journaling task.
Yes, weekend journaling task, exactly. So yeah, this is so okay. So I'll take it chronologically, and hopefully that would answer your question. So I understood pretty early on that, you know, hardcore engineering, although I could do it, is not something that I truly enjoyed. Although I love the traveling part of things and meeting people part of things and learning new language, you know, part of being a site engineer and all. But the seed was sown, you know, that okay, startup. My own, I don't know. Someone else's, I don't know. What industry, I don't know, but startup, right? So once I was back in India, I started, you know, scouring the net for networking opportunities, because once again 2011, because of TIE, I had understood the importance of networking and random networking, you know, just being out there meeting people with no agenda. So when once I was closer to Pune, I started looking for networking opportunities that led, you know, once again, you seek opportunities, you end up, generally you end up, you know, having them offered on a platter to you. It's just a matter of seeking. So I have this belief, allow me this moment of flourish, right? I believe you take one step towards the universe actually takes three towards you, but the first step has to be your own.
Indeed. So when it sounds like you were making more than a first step, you'd taken quite a number of steps along the way that set you up for the possibility of startup. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then this idea of startup really started formulating in your mind.
Yeah.
Okay. And where did that lead you to from there? What was the step that you think was the catalyst? And what were the three steps that came back from the universe?
Well, the first thing was risk aversion. I did not, you know, again, thanks to books, I knew that, you know, I shouldn't get into entrepreneurship as a knee jerk reaction.
Right.
Getting there is good. The best thing that you could do is, you know, secure yourself and slowly transition into it. Again, I was fortunate to be able to do that. Fortunately, uh, I was able to meet someone who had a startup, and we uh, got along great. We still continue to speak very regularly, but the paths have digressed. Paths have diverged. Sorry, yeah. So the paths diverged. He has gone on to work with a giant Swedish tooling manufacturing company, and I started freelancing as a content writer. That slowly started snowballing into content strategy. uh, so this is 2000. So freelancing I did from 2016 to 2020, when I chanced across Anant Tapadia, the CEO of Hexa Wallet. And by this time I had already started exploring Bitcoin. So when I actually met him, I knew this is time to jump into the rabbit hole.
So how did you come across Bitcoin? I saw again in your pre-questionnaire that there were a number of key influences. I watched the video that you linked to.
Oh, I'm so happy.
Beautifully simple kind of rundown on inflation and you know how debt works and how bonds work at the most kind of foundational level. So I can hear the influences that came in, but there had to be something that preceded even that got you looking at those people or listening to those people or reading those people.
Well, again, so I was in college when the 2008 financial crisis happened, right? And by then I was properly into reading nonfiction and reading all these economic newspapers. So I was on top of things. So when Lehman Brothers collapsed, I knew that was a big deal. When banks got a bailout, I knew it was a bigger deal, right? So I was able to appreciate the magnitude of it in the macro, not the nuance of it for sure, but understood that okay, these are tectonic shifts. So I was primed because of that event to appreciate this video that I shared with you, and I would request you, if you wouldn't mind, to maybe put it in your show notes,
I
put it out on
absolutely
Twitter.
will. I
You know,
absolutely will, because it's such a great way to introduce this concept, particularly to people who might be very, very new to
yeah.
what is money and how do the basics of kind of bonds and debt work and what does it mean for us.
And it's an old video, right? I think it came out
It
in
was
2011 to
2011.
2012.
Yep, I saw
Yeah,
that. Yep. And the size of the problem is so much bigger now.
exactly. So that video was made as a response to the 2008 financial crisis, and see where we are now.
Yeah,
You know. So
indeed.
again, it was totally by fluke. See, that is chance, right? You cannot. You should have the humility to say that, hey, I got lucky. There isn't any other way to put it. So it was totally by fluke. I had a very good friend of mine who was into exploring the internet and had a DVD writer back then in 2010, 2011, which was a big deal. Being able to play DVDs was a big deal. Having a DVD writer, oh my god, right? So so he used to spend a lot of time on the internet, and he had come across that video and he shared that with me totally by fluke. So yeah, I was primed to appreciate that video. I shared Atlas Shrugged with you, right? So that as well. Have you read the book, by the way?
Which one was it? I actually missed that. Just
Atlas.
Oh,
At,
Atlas Shrugged.
Atlas
I'm
Shrugged.
sorry, the
Yeah.
Ayn Rand that you recommended. No, you know what? And she keeps coming up and keeps coming up and keeps coming up. And funnily enough, I've been doing an audio book with my son at the moment, where it's a kind of science fiction-y thing. And one of the characters names herself after Ayn Rand. But she's an evil character. And I'm
Oh,
really interested, I think there's actually something else going on with her, and I wouldn't be surprised if she switches sides at some point here. But
okay.
she's an evil character, and I'm interested to know that they made her an evil character, because Ayn Rand is so controversial. And so I'm like,
Yeah.
I've really got to read the books, at least so that I understand fully what the controversy is about. So, yeah, what was the impact for you?
Yeah. So it just made sense, and it was eye-opening. So I would be spoiling the book for you and for our listeners. I wouldn't want to do that per se, because I would want people to read it. To you, where you are with having had so much of experience in life, having seen things, I wouldn't say pick the book, because it's a proper doorstopper, 1,100 pages, finest print that you would have ever seen. So I'm sure you don't have that kind of time. So you can go through the synopsis and you would be able to appreciate it. But for your listeners who may be in college, for sure they should pick it up. Uh, if you're in your teenagers, early 20s, for sure, your listeners should absolutely read the book. And that too, I would say not to bother with the Fountainhead, which came before Atlas Shrugged. The fountainhead is where Ayn Rand's whole philosophy starts taking shape, and it's Atlas Shrugged where it hits a crescendo.
Right.
So and both are different stories with two different characters, but there's a common philosophical theme to it. So people can skip the fountainhead if they would like, and
Yeah.
directly go to Atlas Shrugged. So yeah, the events that happen in the novel also primed me to look at things from the perspective of, okay, there are common people, common folk, plebs, there are entrepreneurs and businesses, both the good kind and the bad kind, and then there's the government, question mark,
Indeed. Indeed. Okay. So you've started going down the Bitcoin rabbit hole. You've started reading these books. You've got this whole macro thing.
Yeah.
Do you remember the first time you heard the word Bitcoin, or you decided to delve into Bitcoin itself?
So my earliest memory, and I may be wrong about this, about hearing the term is in 2014. I read about it somewhere, and I was like, okay, this is interesting, because at that time the new thing was digital marketing. You know, so once again, a lesson from my mentors was always look at things that are incoming, that are very very niche. Keep an eye out. You
Right.
know,
Yeah.
so one good thing, one good yardstick he had given me was he at that time he had told me that I never read books that are 2 years older and beyond. Although he reads history,
Mm-hmm.
so see, history is different, right? But there are lots of books that tend to be very very dated and tend to get dated very fast, right?
And it's a particularly interesting thing in light of my son's in high school now, and I'm thinking ahead to university and what he might study. And one of the problems with university these days, amongst many, is that by the time you're out of university, all the books that you've read, all the stuff that you've studied is already out of date.
Mm-hmm.
And you enter the workforce with old skills and ideas and knowledge, because it's
if
already moved
if
on.
if that
Yeah.
if that
Yeah, because even within university, they're not using the most recent text, the most recent information. So you might be getting stuff that's 10 years old already by the time you get into uni.
Yeah. And are first principles being taught that earnestly with that importance? I don't think so. At least not here in India for sure. I mean, the libraries are well stocked, but how there is a certain charm and beauty of how synchronously an engine works, right? The piston going up, the ignition happening, the piston coming down, the crankshaft spinning. There's poetry there, but our children being introduced to that concept that way, or is it okay? You've got to mug this up, guys. You've got exams in 2 weeks' time.
That's right.
The
Yeah.
magic gets lost, right?
Okay, so we've just had a little interruption. And before this, we were talking about, we'd gone off on some tangent about university and first principles and old textbooks. But I want to kind of come back to the question we were asking just before that, which was more about, so you said Bitcoin came into your life around 2014. You started to look into it. It became interesting. So you already had a whole lot of macro background. You already had a good understanding of finance. You'd already been through the 2008 financial kind of crash. So 2014, this is now 6 years later. Are you seeing and hearing Bitcoin as some sort of solution to the macro problems that you are aware of, or are you just seeing number go up technology? What's going on for you?
No, not even close. Not even those rumblings. It is like, okay, cryptocurrency, something new. As I was speaking before, we were cut off. Digital marketing was the in thing at that time. 2011, 2012 is the time. So people started really understanding how they could do Facebook ads and things like that. So the mentor had this is where we were, right? About books of trying to read and explore about things that are incoming. So that is how I heard about Bitcoin. We digress so far away from that. I'm so so sorry about that, Gary. Yeah. So that's when I take note of this new thing that's incoming. But I'm not an IT guy, and it did not make sense to me at that level of inflation and surveillance and privacy and things like that. It was something new, okay, the new shiny thing which I came across and stored at the back of my mind. And cut to 2018, when was it 18 or 19, I'm not exactly sure. This book called Blockchain Revolution by Don and Alex Tapscott,
Yeah.
that was the book that really drove it all in for me. So although the this is still early, right? 2018 is still early. Most of the people have started getting in 2020 and beyond, right?
Mhm.
So 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 at that time, the blockchain wasn't as bad as a word as it is today, right? So that book lays down the basics of Bitcoin very, very nicely. It talks about how third parties would be redundant. You don't need third parties because Bitcoin is there. Trustlessness, privacy, and all those things. So point by point by point, that book lays down the foundation of everything that Bitcoin is about, and it made sense. Because of all these things, because I had seen that video and it had stuck in my mind all these years, because of Atlas Shrugged, because of curiosity, I was able to appreciate that book and the implications of Bitcoin. So then the new quest was, okay, how do we get in, right? How and it was, how do we get into crypto? It was never Bitcoin, it was never
Mhm.
Bitcoin only. So that was 2018, 2019. Cut to 2020, I get introduced to Anant Tapadia, the CEO of Hexa Wallet. And this is networking. And excuse me. So yeah, I get introduced to him, and that's when Bitcoin only starts making sense, because of the supply cap, the scarcity, the true decentralization, proof of work, things like that. So yeah, so from 2020 I've been working with Hexa Wallet. So from then I have started my freelancing gigs and went all in. uh, Absolutely loved the way Anant went about building the team. Our team is fantastic at Hexa Wallet. Very, very passionate people. Uh, Passionate people, having their north stars defined for them. Uh, building away. And Anant, I love him to bits. I say this literally on every podcast I'm on. So just one of those people, right? That enter your life and you're like, wow, I'm so fortunate, that this person walked in. So he's one of that kind of people for me.
How big is the team now? And give a little plug for Hexo Wallet and what it does, and how you differentiate it as a wallet in the world.
We are a team of 15 people, plus a revolving door of interns coming in and going out, and vendors coming in and going out. So that keeps happening. Stably, we've got a team of 15 people. And so Hexa Wallet is a Bitcoin only wallet, proper self custodial, built on proper Bitcoiner principles. That okay, we don't collect PIIs, for example. You don't need to enter your email, enter a mobile number. We'll send an OTP to you to verify that you aren't a bot and you're alive, and we get all your KYC and whatnot. Nothing of that sort. You just set up your passcode and you're good to go. You're ready to start hodling. So that's what Hexa Wallet is.
Good stuff. And how's it going as a product? And is it primarily Indian users at this stage?
No, our users are global for sure, and it has been going amazingly from the perspective that, yes, we've got good users. We keep getting a lot of feedback, especially on the UX. People have been very vocal about being in love with our UX. So that is one feedback that we generally get. Uh, but beyond that, it has been a time like since 2020. So the company was registered, I believe, in 2018. The product started taking shape in 2019. And since the time I've been with the company, we've had Im- amazing features. And it has been a time of learning for us, all these almost 3 years now, because what we are doing generally, what's happening in the Bitcoin ecosystem, there isn't any precedent to it, right? There are custodial ways of doing things for sure, right? All these biggies, that the tech biggies have ensured that we got a blueprint for doing everything custodially. But if you're trying to do things non-custodially, it's relatively hard, it's
Yeah.
relatively new, right? So we've had to test, build, do a lot of hypothesizing, building in features, building in products, or rather building in features, and then putting them out, gathering feedback. So it has been deep learning. We recently did one of our the biggest change that we've ever done with the wallet. We used to back up the wallet in a certain way. Now we have, we spent more than 2 years on perfecting that backup methodology, and for various reasons. And in fact, it happens to be there on our Twitter for you as well as your listeners, if if people are interested to read about the reasons why we changed the backup methodology. It's all there on Hexa Twitter. So we went from a very different one to a very different one, and that was a journey. So it has been intense and immense learning with Hexa. Sorry
And
sorry for droning on. I mean,
no. I mean, I think that's true. That is the startup process, isn't it? Like it is learning for the first. It's just learning and growing and growing and learning, and everything is going at a million miles an hour, and it's crazy. It's just crazy, and it's very difficult to be strategic or methodical, or to even automate anything, because everything's so hands-on and everybody's just going at a million miles an hour working in the business, and it's hard to work on the business, as it were. Okay, let me come to India. Your Twitter name online is Bitcoin for India, and
yeah. So that's the handle.
that's
My own handle is Abhilash Nair 11.
right.
11 because I made the handle in 11, so that's that. Yeah.
Okay, so I'll put that in the speaker notes. Sorry, speaker notes. That's like a PowerPoint thing in the show notes.
Show notes.
So
Yeah.
tell me about this Bitcoin for India, because I'm getting the sense that Bitcoin in India, you've got this startup there. I understand there's a lot of kind of Bitcoin infrastructure and businesses happening in India. Is that
No,
true to
that's
say? Oh, not
unfortunate. No, no,
especially true.
no.
Okay.
Unfortunately, not. You are not even close
Oh,
to the truth. There are a lot. There are lots of crypto companies out here. There are lots of Web3 companies out here. There are lots. There is all sorts of noise around Web3 over here for sure. But not nowhere close to the number of Bitcoin only companies that you and I and other Bitcoiners would prefer to be in India. But
right.
having said, there is a very very thriving ecosystem of developers who I know from first hand experience are burning the midnight oil, toiling away to come up with Bitcoin only products. There's all sorts of ideas out there, and people are actively working on things. So the future looks
Right.
good. Future coming out of India for Bitcoin only looks good for sure. That much I've got a ringside view to it.
Yeah, absolutely, you do. And you, through your eyes, we want to get a bit of a ringside view. So tell us a bit about, I suppose, Bitcoin for India, but tell us a bit about Bitcoin in India.
Hmm.
So outside of the development ecosystem, tell us about users of Bitcoin. Just how big is Bitcoin in India? Is it a big deal?
No, it isn't. Crypto is, again, unfortunate
Crypto
and
is.
sad, right?
Okay.
So because the way our culture is, we understand self custody, right? Gold is big in India.
Yep.
uh, every family hodls gold over here for sure, right? So we understand self custody, and once money is attached to something, people tend to start uh, people want to get their hands on it, and that is what happened during the bull run, the 2021 bull run. Literally everyone was into crypto. Everyone, properly KYC'd exchanges, people giving tips on this exchange gives you this, this kind of trading percentages, this shitcoin is going to shoot to the moon next week, and all those tips, flying around. So the same thing I was mentioning with hats and Brendo, that uh, crypto was the talk in 2021. uh, be it a marriage or a funeral or a birthday, whatever, right? It's all crypto, and it's your crypto gains. Bitcoin, because Bitcoin in the crypto ecosystem tends to be a little more stable, you know.
Hasn't got the volatility, so it doesn't have the same size gains, potentially.
Yes,
Yep.
yes,
Or
right.
that's how it's perceived. Yes.
Yeah. So because people want to make short-term gains, right? And you can't fault people for that. Hard-earned money, and hard-earned money which is being inflated away as it is, even in 2021, right? People are feeling the pinch. So this new thing comes up, which is cryptocurrency. And if you could, just install an app, just share your user ID, password, and all your government identifies, you start making money. What could go wrong with it, right?
What could go wrong? Famous last words. Okay. So, uh, so clearly a lot of people got wrecked in that.
Yep.
Probably some of them, like me, ended up with their coins on Celsius, and as it
I
went into
heard, and I'm so
limit.
sorry. Were you able to recover it? I heard you mention it on Merrick's podcast.
Not
But
yet, not yet.
oh,
We're relying on Simon Dixon maybe to, at some stage they'll be freed up, and I'll move them out of self. I mean, I'll have to figure out what to do then. But meanwhile, they're frozen there. I expect I'll get something back. Who knows what and how much. So I'm expecting a number of people got wrecked then in the 2021 bull run into then the now bear market of 2022.
yeah.
Probably a lot of
Nobody's
shitcoiners
speaking
got wrecked.
crypto. Nobody's speaking Bitcoin.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. So what's this process of converting people who have now been hurt in crypto and helping them understand that Bitcoin is different and is a longer term investment proposition, but more importantly, store of value and potential currency that
Yeah.
could transform Indian and global economies?
So, in particularly speaking about India, we, thankfully for us so far, we haven't been hurt as bad as the rest of the world, the global south, countries like Colombia and Venezuela, where Argentina, where the currency is being inflated away like alarmingly, right? Sri Lanka, for example.
Yeah.
Sri Lanka is in such a bad shape.
Absolutely.
So
Why hasn't India gone down that road? Is there a more stable kind of economic environment? Is there more manufacture and trade? Is there simply a better treasurer and central bank? What's holding it
so
up?
I am not the best person to comment on that.
Okay.
I haven't explored it. Frankly, I haven't explored it at that depth. But yes, we have industries. Yes, see, we've got youth, right? We've got youth. We've got agriculture. We've got minerals and resources. So all those things are covered. So that helps the economy. Yeah, our debt to GDP is not all that bad. We aren't at 300%. Last I checked, we were somewhere around what, 69, 70% something,
Right. Okay.
so the economy is churning. That is for sure, right? uh, Maybe it's to do with the size of the country, but I'm way out of my, the limits of my knowledge. So it won't be an informed comment.
Okay.
But having said, yes, definitely, the middle class over here as well, like the rest of the world, is feeling the pinch. Everything is more expensive. The government says that the inflation is, in the range of 7 to 10%. It is nowhere close to 7 to 10% on the ground. It's very, very different across sectors, across products, household goods. So yeah, it is varying massively, and people are feeling the pinch. It's not, the pinch is not hard enough that people start considering a Bitcoin, for example. We haven't gotten to that place yet.
Yeah, it's interesting that, isn't it? Because obviously we all know that the CPI is under measured. I haven't got the right, underreported. But even when you take realistically kind of all the products going up, people aren't hurting enough. And even then, I don't think it would occur to people that this is government money printing that's at fault. People think as inflation is caused by all sorts of other things, and they assume it's some sort of supply demand issue, or it's some sort of big corporations being, taking their filthy profits and all of that stuff. And they'll blame almost anyone but the government. And I find that fascinating. That's why it's such a clever tool for robbing people blind.
So let's take the example of vegetables, right?
Yeah.
Suddenly vegetables are more expensive. If you ask the vegetable vendor why is it that vegetables are more expensive, he'll tell you that it is more expensive at the wholesale markets.
Yep.
And you leave it at that, and you
That's it.
purchase
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Let's not dig any deeper. All we're doing is going one step back in the food chain. Excuse pun.
Yeah.
But we need
Who's
to
got the
explore
time, right?
further than that one step.
Who's got the time? Who's got the time? I've got, debts to pay. I've got EMIs, right? I've got to get back to my rat race.
But hang on a moment. But there is a big community getting interested in Bitcoin for India, because that's got a huge following, doesn't it? It's well over 1 million people, isn't it?
No,
Oh, no?
I mean, the Twitter handle has around 1,000 followers.
I've completely misread that. Sorry.
Okay, no, not yet, but I can tell you that Bitcoiners are definitely in the 4 digits, the thousands. It is nowhere close to millions, but definitely in the thousands. Yeah, crypto people, if you see, people know crypto for sure. There are hundreds of millions of people who know of Bitcoin for sure, right? But the key value propositions of Bitcoin, the pinch hasn't been felt that badly over here. And and like the rest of the world, even we have got our own Bitcoin ecosystem for sure over here, and they get it, and they are and once you get it, you want to orange pill, you then you become the crazy one in the family, right? Then you don't want to.
I know all about that.
Yeah. So
how is the orange pilling going? Because as you said, there's a culture of hard money, of gold hodling, of gold jewelry. I'm assuming that flows through to your central banks. Like that's a mindset. Gold hodling is a mindset. It's a way of thinking about long-term store of value. It's surely a country and a culture that is ripe for this thing, possibly more than the West ever could be. Because of that, it's like you've got the best of everything in one way for a Bitcoin culture, because you've got this gold mentality, this gold holding mentality, which is really only held by China and Russia, but you are a democracy with a gold holding mentality. Now that's fascinating. That's possibly unique in the world.
Yep.
We need this to happen. How are we going to orange pill India? How is this going to happen?
So here is my comment to that. See, the need hasn't been felt here yet, unfortunately, right? So the best that us Indian Bitcoiners could do is reach out. First of all, continue to be, the mad person in the family, not give up on that, because it is disheartening, right? It does get lonely with your normie friends and relatives,
Oh, God,
where
yeah.
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 So not giving up is important. So that is one thing. The second thing is, this is the unfortunate truth, that I mean, this is my personal opinion, that you have to let other people come to you and
Yeah.
talk about it.
Yeah.
you know
Yeah.
you can go bang your head on the wall trying to prove the importance of Bitcoin, and it's unfortunately it's about perceived value, right? The value isn't being seen yet because the pinch isn't being felt yet,
Yeah.
you know
Yeah.
so
Okay.
so
Yes.
in my yeah
Yeah.
yeah,
Come
go
on.
ahead.
Sorry. Yeah.
So in my opinion, it is, you let people come and ask you that question, that hey, what is this Bitcoin thing, and then you start having that conversation. So this would generally be crypto people who have heard about it and want to know more about it. So unfortunately you have to let the other person enter in.
Yeah.
Let them initiate that conversation. That is my personal experience. Till then, you hang out, you support your community of Bitcoiners. You shout them out, you facilitate things for them. You help them experiment with their products, help them research, introduce them to a new podcast that came out last week, a new person that you got to know of. So so one, you support the ecosystem, and two, when someone becomes curious, then that is when you have the orange pilling conversation with them. That's my personal opinion.
There's a lot in that I need to take on board. Thank you. um, Tell me, I just want to explore this thing a little bit further about being the mad one in the family, right? Because this is a big deal for me, not so much in family specifically, but, friends and so forth. Do you ever doubt yourself? Do you sit there and go, maybe I am mad? Maybe, like, are we mad? Like, is this for real?
So it is easy for me, frankly, because I was the mad one in the family before Bitcoin. So-
Okay, got it. Yeah.
I was the startups guy, and so I'm already mad, right? So that's easy for me. That's Bitcoin is an easy on ramp for me.
Yeah. Okay. But is this thing going to take off? Is this going to happen? Do you think this is going to happen? Realistically, are we mad to imagine, to hope, to dream of a Bitcoin standard world?
Ah, that's a loaded question, right? And you know it. You know it. You obviously know it. You obviously know it. Uh See, the hope is for a more just world, for a more peaceful world, is where I would make my entryway into answering that question, right? uh Bitcoin seems to be the best option for it today.
Mm-hmm.
So going back to that concept of creating value, you asked me, right, what is it that makes sense to me. You had a question in your questionnaire, why I am into Bitcoin. So I see Bitcoin as a way that I can try to create a more just world, a more peaceful world. And that's all there is in your control, right? You could hope, and you could work, right?
Yeah.
So I don't think that's the answer you're looking for, but
Well, it is and it isn't. If there's someone listening to this who's new to Bitcoin and they're hearing you make a leap from Bitcoin to peace and justice,
Mhm.
that's why I'm here. That's
Yeah.
that's what I believe in. And there's also something in me that's here for the revolution of just smaller government and less intervention and greater libertarianism, so greater liberty. So there's a slightly different thing going on, but or additional thing going on. How do you make the leap? I know what my steps are from Bitcoin to justice and peace, how would you describe that to someone new? How Bitcoin leads to more justice and more peace?
That is relatively simple for me. So let me use the rupee as a currency for this discussion. 1990. It's a simple discussion, really, right? At least the opening of it. It's like learning the keyboard. At the start, it's simple. Then it becomes complex. Unlike the guitar, which is exactly the opposite, right?
Ah.
So, so okay, so the conversation is okay, how much were you able to purchase with 100 rupees in, let's say, 1990? And the other person would say quite a lot. And how much are you able to purchase today? And that person would say like hardly anything, right? So, and then the question becomes, why do you think is that? And that person would tell me that, things become expensive. And then the next question is, why do you think is that? And at some point that person would not have answers, because that person would not have thought through about inflation and things like that. That's when you start speaking about inflation and the infinite money supply. And finally, see, when you start telling people that your savings are getting eroded away without you not doing anything, that's when you have them.
Yeah.
Your money that you have, that is apparently in your possession, is losing its value with no fault of your own. Someone who's primed to hear that would hear that, and then the Bitcoin conversation starts.
It's a tough sell, don't you reckon? Like,
Yep.
New technologies, big breakthrough technologies like internet, mobile phones, and so forth, they are self-evident in terms of the benefits. To sell someone on, in this case, we have to sell someone on the problem before we start selling them on the solution.
Yeah.
Whereas mobile phones and internet kind of were just obvious solutions to, not that they were big problems beforehand. That's the difference, really. I mean, in some ways, this is a much bigger problem than it's addressing. Mobile phones and internet weren't addressing a problem. They were just creating a market.
Yeah.
It's very different with Bitcoin. It's actually solving a massive problem in the form of inflation, but then inflation isn't actually just the issue, is it? Because now let's get to justice and peace.
So see, there's that story, right? I don't know whether it's true or not, because I've not done the experiment. There's that story of the frog, right? You put a
Yes.
frog in boiling hot water, it
Oh,
would
you
jump
haven't
out.
done this experiment yourself?
No.
No. Indeed, yeah. But so the story goes, yes.
So the story goes, right? But you gradually increase the heat, and the frog wouldn't even realize, what got him,
Yeah.
right? I think that's what is happening with people,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah. Absolutely. We get used to it. We assume it's right. We assume it's good. This is the thing that I have tried to battle, is we think inflation is natural and good. We have been sold that in the propaganda.
Yep.
And we've all just bought it because it's there in the air from the time that we're born. It's there in our education system, isn't it?
Yep.
Okay. So if Bitcoin doesn't take off in your lifetime, do you think you're going to get disheartened? Do you think you're going to become, where do you turn?
So okay, allow me to answer that at a personal level and then at a humanity level, right?
Yeah.
At a personal level, even if Bitcoin doesn't take off, uh, it's still okay, because I tried. You know,
Yeah.
you could only do so much. You can believe in something, you can question something, you can believe it, you can work for it, you can work in it. You can work for your value systems, right? And at the end of the day, it's the metrics are simple. Are you able to smile? Do you feel justified in your day's work? Are you able to sleep peacefully? With, are you able to take pride in the work that you did that day, whether you were right or wrong, irrespective of the outcomes, right? So for me personally, I'm trying. I am in the ecosystem. Every day I've got reason to wake up and hustle. and I'm enjoying the process, right? Irrespective of the reward. So if the reward comes, nothing like it. But my days are justified. So I'm happy with that personally. At a humanity level, yeah, hopefully it doesn't get as bad as all of us Bitcoiners, uh, are seeing the indicators of.
Mm.
Hopefully, common sense. Let me use that word. Common sense prevails, and things come under control. This is a big hope, and it's a feeble hope, unfortunately.
Mm.
Hopefully humanity doesn't get to a place where we see situations that are worse than the world wars, where it's a dog eat dog world, everyone for themselves, everyone justifying heinous crimes in their mind because they weren't the initiators of it, just the perpetrators,
Mm.
things like that.
Right.
Hopefully we don't get there, but yeah.
That's really what you imagine? Like this is kind of fourth turning decade. Are you familiar with the fourth turning?
I know of the book. I haven't read it. I haven't explored the concept, so not yet.
You can get some reasonably summary videos on YouTube. And so the idea is 20 years of high, 20 years of, oh God, how does it go? 20 years of high economy, 20 years of moving towards greater independence. So it starts with kind of more really working together to get out of a hole, then moving into more individualism than collectivism and more kind of cultural, like the hippie era, where it's all, it becomes a bit more about me. So let's say we're coming out of the war, we're all in it together, we're rebuilding the economy, then it becomes more individualistic and until we aim for a kind of a downhill period where we've become complacent until we hit 20 years of crisis. And so technically we're in that 20-year crisis period that started from, I'm pretty sure it was about 2008, and it goes through till about 2028 or 30. And so ostensibly, this is the time where if it's going to come undone, it really comes undone. And there's arguments to say that it's bigger than a standard 80-year crisis period, that there's a 500-year cycle playing out as well, of the rise and fall of a civilization, so Western civilization. So it's almost hard to imagine that we're going to avoid it, in my mind. And I don't see how we can avoid it, because isn't there a tipping point with debt to GDP of about 130% that you can't get out of, and the US is already at 130%. It's like 128 or something like that. So I just don't see a way out. Yeah, I mean, I see Bitcoin obviously as my personal hope for a way out, but I just don't see a fast enough adoption to avoid the crash.
Yeah, so unfortunately I'm with you on that. So I've studied the Second World War out of interest, and just the Second World War. I'm not I wouldn't call myself a history buff per se, but I've studied the Second World War to understand how people behave during crisis, leaders as well as normal common folk. And it's not ideal. It's not ideal, right? So yeah, I believe we are in a very, very precarious situation, a dangerous situation. People need to be educating themselves. I am not seeing that happening. Bitcoiners globally are trying very, very hard, so that is very heartening. uh, the hope is the Armageddon doesn't come. That's all, right? We are living through very interesting times, very dangerous times. I have read reports that it's a mathematical certainty that Armageddon would indeed come, whether in our lifetime or no, but it would. I don't look beyond that. That is me closing my eyes. That is the moment where I close my eyes and start thinking about my immediate near India ones, and at the same time hustling in the Bitcoin ecosystem. That's all that you could do, right? I mean, what else can you do beyond that?
Yeah, indeed, indeed. And your hope, of course, is for greater justice and peace, because I want to move towards a more positive, more positive
It went to a
conversation.
bleak place, huh?
Sorry. Yeah,
It
yeah.
went to a bleak place.
Yeah, and it's very easily done. I mean, to be honest, I don't think we talk about the realities of, I think there are two things we don't talk about particularly tangibly in the Bitcoin community. What I don't think we're very specific about is, what does a crash really look like? And what I also think we're equally poor at is articulating what peace and justice could look like. What does a Bitcoin standard world actually look like? How is it different? And so probably the best explanations I've come across, well, Jeff Booth's Price of Tomorrow, with technology coming down, technology bringing the price of goods and services down. So now we've got a longer time frame, what do they call it? A lower time frame, where we can save towards the future, where we can trust, where our money is worth more tomorrow, where we are not being stolen from, in inverted commas, where we can have self-custodianship via wallets like Hexo. How do you see that? Talk to me about India in particular again, because I think this is a lovely note. If you can imagine a world where India can trade, where it's legal tender, like El Salvador, where Indians can trade in Bitcoin, where people can save in Bitcoin, what does it mean for Indian people? What does it mean potentially for the caste system? Does that impact? And what does it mean for your relationships with your neighbors like Pakistan?
Oh, that's putting me in a spot, huh?
Oh yeah.
I've seen enough late night TV shows to know when the poor person being interviewed is being put in a spot. Uh,
And you may not, look, I mean, it's not my place to ask you about all of India. I'm taking advantage of the fact that you're the first person actually in India that I'm speaking to. So I'm doing it as a matter of curiosity. I'm not doing it to put you on the spot or to make you be the spokesperson for all of Bitcoin and all of India. I just don't live there, and I don't know.
So you pulled up a couple of questions. So let's take one by one. Where would you want me to start?
So I guess, what would it mean for ordinary people in India, do you think? How do you imagine it fixing any of India's kind of current socioeconomic problems?
That's it would require thought on my part. I won't, I won't be able to. I don't want to randomly give you a quip or a quotable quote that may end up being insensitive or uninformed, because I am uninformed on that.
Yeah.
We are, that is far off into the future. But one thing I can comment about that is that if the change comes, people would be very welcoming of it, and it would come true in the very real sense of slowly but suddenly. So
Yeah, right.
because there is precedent to that. This happened in India. I think it was 2017 or 2016 when we demonetized our currency. Okay. And there was a proper cash shortage, and the way the entire country moved on to digital payments was unbelievable. So it was like one day it was all cash, the next day it was all digital ecosystem. So smallest of the smallest shops and kiosks went digital. Everyone has a QR code. You come to India, you'll see every small little shop has got a QR code. So that happened like almost overnight. you know Literally everyone was plugged in, and it was business as usual. So that is one thing that is heartening about the country for sure. I've seen that happen. It blows my mind. It blows my Western friends' mind as well, that we are far more digital, compared to even, like, the so to use a very derogatory term, the sugar daddy of Europe, Germany. So Germany is all cash, right? You know this for a fact, that uh, German businesses prefer cash over digital payments. So especially I've got friends visiting from Germany, they are surprised by how everything is digital and everything is mobile. Nobody uses cash anymore. Yes, there is cash, but everyone is comfortable with digital. So when the change comes, it would be relatively seamless for India and Indians. So that is one comment that I have for you, based on my limited knowledge.
That's really heartening. And funnily enough, I was talking about this in regard to El Salvador and just how quickly all the merchants, well, they had to be able to take Bitcoin on as legal tender. And a year later, everybody's using it. Everybody's using it. So you do get used to it. And you get used to it, as you say. I really like that as a key takeout, is it happens slowly and then it happens quickly.
So
And
we
I
adapt,
think,
right? That is the thing about humanity for sure. Even I observe this during my study of the Second World War as well. We adapt, for better or for worse. For better or
yeah,
for worse, we
and I
adapt
reckon
very
that's
fast.
and I
Hmm.
reckon that's right. And for all the kind of doom and gloom and fear of what could happen with a crash, what we also know is necessity is the mother of invention, and
Yep.
humans have enormous capacity to create and invent their way out of things. And in this case, Bitcoin already exists.
Yeah.
So there's a certain element that doesn't need inventing our way out of, because there's a solution sitting there ready and waiting to go,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
as and when. All right, then. Abhi, I'm feeling like that's, it was unfair of me to ask a question that asked you to predict into the future, very specifically around kind of India and then potentially international relations. But I actually think we found a real kernel of truth in that.
Hmm.
And I love that example of how quickly India took to that digitization of transactions. Um, is there anything that you feel that you were hoping we would get to and that we haven't really explored?
In this podcast or as Bitcoiners?
In in this podcast, is there anything you are hoping to bring or to say that I haven't asked the right question to bring it out?
I don't think so. First of all, we went places. The only regret is we couldn't stop in all the places that we went and go deeper. But that's the nature of the beast, right? So we touched upon some great things. Uh, Moving towards closure of the podcast, I can tell you for a fact that there is a vibrant Bitcoin ecosystem over here in India. That's how we connected in the first place, right?
Yeah.
So there's a vibrant, passionate ecosystem of Bitcoiners, Bitcoin only people working away over here in India. So that, let that be my message to Australians and all your listeners, that we are here out here, as passionately working on Bitcoin and orange pilling, and hoping and trying to actively create a better future for our brethren, as much as any other Bitcoiner anywhere out there in the world. So that's one thing I would like to
Beautiful.
underline.
If there's any venture capitalists listening in, have you got any messages for the venture capitalists? Should they be putting their money in India?
Of course, that's a resounding yes. Oh, it's it's a no-brainer on so many levels. We are bright. Oh, I mean, I'll start gloating as an Indian. So, but yes, the answer to that is a big yes. We've got it all. We've
Beautiful.
got, yeah, we've got a good country for sure. Super proud.
You've convinced
Super proud.
me. I reckon I would move there in a heartbeat. I'd have a bit of a job, talking my husband and son into it. But that's a conversation I'll wait till at least my son's finished high school. Maybe he can come there to do university or something.
Would be happy to host him and show him around a bit. And you.
We would love that. I would absolutely love that. Abhi,
You
it
have
has
an open
been
invite.
such a pleasure. I hope we will continue this conversation offline, but I also hope we'll continue with some sort of ongoing contact, because I find this really insightful and really beautiful, to be honest. Just you as a human being, what's going on in India with the ecosystem, the hopes and dreams of Bitcoiners. It's just been a pleasure and a delight, and I really appreciate you taking the time out on your Saturday morning to have this conversation with me.
I've been looking forward for this since the time you reached out. So the pleasure is mine, the honor is mine. So this was fun at a personal level. Leave apart the Bitcoin. The Bitcoin and Bitcoiners are always fun. That's
Isn't that the truth of it?
Yep. I am yet to find a Bitcoiner who's not emotional. I'm yet to find a Bitcoiner who doesn't have a good sense of humor. So the best ecosystem to be in, So yeah. So
It
this was
is.
an
It's a
absolute
beautiful
pleasure.
community. All
Yep,
right,
I
Abhi.
agree.
Be well, my friend. Lovely to chat. Take good care.
You too, Carrie. You too. You too. Thank
Ciao
you.
for
Thanks
now.
for having me. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.